Okay, I've been hearing about it all week, so let's just get it out of the way. The 5,000-pound elephant in the room. Last week's video was short. In the beginning, I advertised 30 minutes every Wednesday, and I did not deliver that. I apologize. To make it up to you, I'm going to show every death in the Friday the 13th film series while I do my thing. I'm not sure if we can fit it all into a single half-hour episode, but if not, what the hell? You guys were shorted on last week's episode, so you deserve it. Look at your boy Kevin Bacon. Yes, that is really him. Fun fact, this death was what made me a horror fan for life. It looks so realistic as an impressionable young boy. I knew I didn't really see someone die right there, so I wanted to know how it looked so real. This axe in the face was pretty boss too. I remember special effects artist Tom Savini asking the writer of this movie, do you want a fake axe and a real head, or a real axe and a fake head? And the writer was like, what the hell? I just write this shit. That's fucking hilarious. The guy who wrote this movie also wrote for longtime TV soap opera All My Children after he made this movie. That's a true story. I am literally a walking encyclopedia of Friday the 13th trivia. I will put this franchise over any other horror series on planet Earth. Okay, so we are into part 2 now, which aside from some flashbacks of him drowning, this is Jason's debut. There aren't any celebrity cameos on the level of Kevin Bacon, or on any level at all. Well, maybe Stu Charno, but he doesn't die, so you won't see him. So the first 2 deaths are Alice, the final girl from the original movie, and Crazy Ralph, the only 2 characters from the first movie. That right there should tell you that all bets are off. A lot of these death scenes are ripped off from an Italian horror movie. The guy in the wheelchair, and the lovers in bed that get impaled with a spear simultaneously are all from Mario Bava's underrated masterpiece, A Bay of Blood. A lot of American horror films go hard, but no one goes harder than the Italians. Ever see Cannibal Holocaust? The effects in that film were so realistic that an Italian judge ordered Bava to bring the actors into court to prove that they hadn't really been killed in the Amazon. Eli Roth nearly duplicated that with The Green Inferno, which is pretty gnarly if you haven't seen it. I am getting off the subject though. This chick was trying to fuck the dude in the wheelchair, but instead got penetrated in another way. See what I did there? Jason, as you may have noticed, isn't wearing his hockey mask. He has a bag on his head, just like the Elephant Man. Okay, so now we're into part 3, and I have to tell you that I kind of had to crop this one because of the stupid 3D effects, but I think it looks pretty seamless. At the time of this recording, there is a crazy thunderstorm going on outside with wind and everything. It must be pretty serious because both and Dirt came in here to seek refuge. Dirt comes in here all the time, but his boyfriend never does. I wasn't thinking much of the storm, but then I remembered that Indiana is prone to tornadoes, and suddenly I'm worried. So we are about to see the debut of Jason's hockey mask. He took it off this annoying practical joker named Shelley, who I hated as a kid and cheered his death, but in recent times I have come to appreciate him. He represented all of us nerds who couldn't get laid. This handstand death coming up is pretty dope. It may be one of the dopest in the whole series. And the girl in the hammock was a reporter during the O.J. Simpson trial, and was threatened with contempt by Judge Ito when she wouldn't reveal her sources. Just chilling on the hammock and looks up to see her boyfriend cut in half hanging above her. Man, that's pretty gnarly. This ass munch in the wetsuit is Shelly, who I mentioned before. We also played as him in the video game version of Friday the 13th, so we are all well aware of his lore within the series. These cats are making me nervous. They keep going up to the windows when the wind gets to blowing, and it makes me think that they know something that I don't know. Don't cats and other animals start acting strange when shit is about to go down? Whoa, look out, because that eyeball is coming at ya. Now we've seen this ending before a couple of videos ago, but now we can watch it again. If a tornado comes, at least I will be able to say that I made a video during one. Just sipping on some old granddad, chillin'. Hey look, it's the nerdy cop from Police Academy. We're into part 4 now, which was billed as the final chapter. But believe me when I tell you that it was far from final. But it does have some cameos. Crispin Glover, Corey Feldman, and Rocky Dennis's best friend. You know about Rocky Dennis, right? From the 1985 blockbuster Mask. It had fucking Cher in it, dude. There is also the dark-haired girl from Weird Science who gets fucked up in a raft. I often wonder about how things would have gone had they made this the final chapter. Corey Feldman would have been the one to kill Jason for good. You couple that with his contributions to the Goonies and Gremlins, and he would have been king of the 1980s. Not to mention he would have followed up with the Lost Boys and License to Drive. If all of that would have happened, maybe the other Corey would still be alive. Who knows? I have dedicated an entire ending to Jason getting fucked up, but not before we check out Crispin Glover's and his gnarly corkscrew butcher knife combo that was loved by everyone who saw it. What I mean by setting up the ending with Jason's death is that this was called the final chapter, so Jason's death was pretty gnarly. So I felt it should be included in this death series. Part 5 gets a lot of hate, but you wouldn't hear any of it from me. I actually kinda like it. But we got quite a few deaths to get through before Jason gets his comeuppance. The weather has gotten completely bonkers, and I just got an alert that we are on a tornado watch. Hell yeah, dude, we are currently being stalked by the weather. That's fucking badass. Look at this pretty boy get his face crushed against the shower wall. That is one of the things I like about this Jason. He runs, for one, and his deaths are mostly just him taking the path of least resistance. He just starts smashing heads against walls and throwing people out the window. There is actually an English word for that, and it is called defenestration. It means to throw someone from a window. If you were to ask me, I would say that the first 4 films in this series tell a cohesive story. It is after part 5 that in my opinion that the series kind of loses its way. Oh wait, look at this. This is Jason's death. At first, it's just a single machete shot to the side of the head. But then he slides down the blade of the knife and gets absolutely fucking wrecked. Hell yeah, that is what he deserves. His sister starts freaking out though. And that is when Tommy Jarvis goes into hero mode and starts just chopping at Jason's body laying out on their living room floor. I also just want to say that old granddad doesn't even equate against Jameson or Jack Daniels. I should be fucking wrecked at this point. But this right here is the birth of a new character, Tommy fucking Jarvis. He is the one to lay Jason down for good. Is that dude in the bucket hat Freddy Prinze Jr.? This is part 5, and for the first time I'm going to have to go through the trouble of editing out tits, chest tickles, sweater puppets, fun bags. I'm talking about titties. Bouncing tits and double tit I called it. When I was a kid, we'd be outside blowing bubbles and occasionally you'd get 2 bubbles together, and when that happened, I'd shout double tit. I called it because you'd only get credit for it if you called it, so you had to say, I called it. But anyway, there are a lot of gnarly deaths in this edition, so they are going to come fast and furious, but you won't have to sit through a bunch of bad acting from your boy. Vang Diesel. Did you know that his real name is Mark Sinclair or some Disney-ass shit? So this movie gets a lot of hate, because it's not Jason killing people. It's some random ambulance driver who is all upset because his kid got chopped up at the beginning of the movie. He gave the kid up for adoption, so I don't know why he's so upset. Back in the day, before Blockbuster and Hollywood Video took over everything, there were tiny little video rental stores, and you could find copies of this movie at every single one of them. That's how you know people didn't like it, because no one was renting it. This random dirty dude gets whacked, and then it's all about the titties. I have no choice but to edit them out because YouTube will tar and feather me like if I was in an old Bugs Bunny cartoon. Some do-goody will report me, and that will be that. There is probably some dude out there with a pixel fetish who is thinking he just hit the jackpot with those pixelated titties. There's some more coming up, but you'll have to be patient. You have no idea how difficult it is to pixelate titties, especially big ones. Little ones are no problem because you basically just have to cover the nipples, but when you have massive honking bazookas, there are a lot more pixels involved. But I don't want to have to explain how the sausage is made. Sorry about that. They use a lot of zoom shots in this movie, and I don't really understand why. Another thing I don't understand is how on Ash Wednesday, everyone shows up to school and work with dirt smeared on their forehead. It makes you look absolutely ridiculous. Just my opinion. Now we're really starting to see deaths that are hilarious. Squeezing tomatoes and faceplants into some kind of stew. The motherfucker works like spray the shit in the toilet and the enzymes and shit. Collaborate and make some kind of mixture that you eat. We got tits coming up on the screen while I give you the definition of what stew is. Don't be scared. We are almost done with this edition, and we can get back to the good ones. In my opinion, Part 6 is the last good one. It's like Scream before Scream was a thing. I was talking shit about the potency of this old granddad earlier, and I am happy to report that it finally started to kick in. The storm is still raging outside, so now my only hope is that a tornado does come and destroys the school that I work at. I can't call out again. That kid you just saw in the red onesie was Dudley from Different Strokes. He survived Jason, that dude with the bike shop and working with Gary Coleman. Yeah, where are the notebooks at? If you get that reference, then you know what's up. We got Gramps flying through the window and then the fake Jason falling out of a barn loft onto a bed of nails. I always keep my bed of nails right outside the barn, too. That shit makes no sense, but whatever. Hey kids, check it out. That's Horshack from Welcome Back Kotter that just got fucking wrecked by zombie Jason. He was brought back to life with a lightning bolt like your boy Frank Einstein. Because Tommy Jarvis has some serious anger issues with dead bodies. So from this point forward in the series, Jason is a legit zombie. Tommy killed him in Part 4, and he was indeed dead for years. But then him and Horshack came to the cemetery and dug him up like assholes and accidentally on purpose brought him back. So I was saying earlier that this one was like Scream before Scream was a thing. And what I meant by that was that the dialogue is a lot like Scream was, even though this movie was made 10 years earlier. And the characters say and do things that are just horror movie 101, and they acknowledge that. Like where the dude was like, don't ever say you'll be right back because you won't be back. I don't know, it's just very self-referential and hip, unlike Part 5. Like how those paintballers were wearing headbands that said dead on them right before they all got killed. I don't know. I'm probably just looking at it too deeply. So deep it'll put your butt to sleep. Now we just gotta pull out the jammy and kill the punani. I originally was going to do the whole franchise, but I think I'm going to stop after part 8, the one in New York. For me, that was where the franchise ended. I saw the 9th one in the theater, and Jason is only in it at the very beginning and at the very end. It sucked. Don't even get me started on the one in space. I don't even want to mention it. If you disagree with my decision, feel free to light me up in the comments section. I don't even really care at this point. I mean, I'm having fun doing this and everything, but, the dude that was driving that RV is or was John Travolta's nephew in real life. His name escapes me at the moment, but trust me, bro, I wouldn't give you bad information. He was in a bunch of movies in the 80s. He was in the beach scene of The Karate Kid. God ruined a perfectly good asshole when he put teeth in your mouth. Someone just sent me a message that said that, and I'm sitting here thinking that it is a top-tier insult. I always heard it as God ruined a perfectly good dick when he put your face on it. Another fun fact about this movie is that there are 2 different people playing Jason. The one you see here is different than the one who killed all the paintballers. The director was pissed because the dude was all caked up and pushing maximum density. That might be the first time a dude lost a role because he gained too much weight. But don't worry, he was a stuntman or some shit. He wasn't like a real actor. I don't mean that like stuntmen aren't real actors. I'm just saying that it wasn't like they didn't have any work for him. This fool is out here just squeezing heads and bending people over backwards. Jason is a real menace in this movie. Speaking of being a menace, Dirt came back and fell asleep on my pillow, so I guess I'm gonna have to just fold up my arms and sleep on those. Okay, so it is almost time for Jason himself to get wrecked, which is fitting, because I am quite wrecked myself. And fuck man, I'm probably going to have to go to work tomorrow. The weather is starting to calm down, so my hopes of the school being destroyed are slim. Wait, watch this. Watch this. Ooh, a handful of boogers. Okay, so this is part 7, where I believe that the series officially jumped the shark. It's a whole Jason versus Carrie deal because the little girl is telekinetic or whatever and killed her old man. We actually went and saw this as a family at a drive-in when I was a kid. I mean, it's not terrible, but it ain't all that great either. So I ended up passing out and had to go to work with a terrible hangover. I'm actually sitting in the faculty bathroom taking a creamy brisket shit. Jason is looking rough in this one from being underwater for years. I am dragging serious ass today, so I'm going to have to find a quiet classroom to hide out in because I don't really want to deal with anyone right now. So let's just concentrate on the movie. This video is already longer than the one we put out last week. This one is subtitled as The New Blood because after 3 movies with Tommy Jarvis as the protagonist, they drop that story completely and go with this lame-ass psychic girl. I think I've already mentioned that the first 4 are my favorites. They tell a cohesive story. This one also has some full-body nudity in it, so I'm gonna have to fire up my pixels for that. 60 bytes of RAM ought to do the trick. So there's a lot of stalking people in the woods, and people just randomly out in the woods. I don't know what that's about. The people who made this movie were probably just out there shooting some B-roll footage, wasting Paramount's time and money. That is what I would have done. I would have taken one look at the script and said this is one big pile of shit, like Dr. Ian Malcolm. This is typically everyone's favorite kill, the one with the sleeping bag. People who don't even know the series know that Jason smacked an occupied sleeping bag against a tree. I don't know, it's the best in this movie, but not the best kill of the series. Okay, here we go. This is going to be great if you haven't seen it before. Jason's weak ass can't even lift it. Holy shit, that was insane, am I right? This guy coming up kinda looks like Kirk Cameron. Remember that douche? Tell me that guy doesn't look like Kirk Cameron. The full-body nudity is also coming up, so if there are small children in the audience, you may want to ask them to leave the room. Oh shit, here it is, fellas. You can almost see her bush. So I'm hiding out in one of the foreign language rooms, and I can hear this Asian dude I work with walking down the hall calling my name. The door is closed and the light is off to avoid detection, especially from him. He gets on my nerves. He's a new hire. He just asks questions nonstop, and I keep telling him that I'm not in charge and he should direct his questions to someone who is. He also has a really heavy accent, and I just say yeah and nod at him. I don't want to be around people, especially those I can't understand. I mean, I'm sure he's a nice guy or whatever, but fuck, bro, leave me alone. Go find someone else to bother. Needless to say, I did not answer him, and I can still hear him further down the hall looking for me. I'm only going to come out for my breaks. Okay, so we are about to do a throwback to part 4 with a girl getting thrown out of the window with the fall shot in slow motion. People say that the guy playing Jason in this movie is the best, but I don't know. He moves like a goddamned robot and not in a good way. Oh, I forgot to mention that the psychic girl's doctor is Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's. I heard somewhere that when people die they piss and shit themselves, so that means those guys were partying with a dead guy whose pants were filled with piss and shit. Jesus, how many people die in this movie? They have to be running out of teenagers by now. They need to start playing some orchestra music to remind these fools to wrap it up. The sign is real simple, B. You gotta wrap it up. Wrap that shit up, B. If you look carefully here, you can see the screenshot they used for the cover of the Friday the 13th Nintendo game. It's right here where he raises the axe. Fucking classic, am I right? That chick was a bitch, though. No one in the audience will miss her. Throws her behind the TV. Man, I love that shit. So this lame movie gets a lame ending where she summons her father from the bottom of the lake to drag Jason back down there with him. Fuck this. Let's go to New York. Alright, this is part 8, which came out in the summer of 1989. I remember the TV show 21 Jump Street being popular at the same time. And I remember thinking that this movie looked like an episode of that show. It's because they were both filmed in Vancouver. When I say Vancouver, I mean Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, not Vancouver in Washington State. I know it can get confusing, but this movie also came out when the original Michael Keaton Batman movie came out, so it never stood a chance in theaters. This movie gets a lot of hate because only a few scenes were filmed in New York, and the majority of the movie is spent on a ship. The way I heard the story was that the script was much more ambitious, but the money guys were reluctant. Those sons of bitches. Another good reason for stopping after this one is because it was the last film in the series that came out in the 80s, and for me, these films are part of that zeitgeist. The ones made afterward just seem anachronistic and totally out of place. That's just me, though. I have also mapped it out, and I have discovered that this segment will take us right up to the half-hour mark. So, I will have made up the lost time of last week's clusterfuck. Going forward, I will consider all of my sins forgiven. I don't want to hear any more bitching. This chick is a bitch, so don't cry for her. She pushed another girl overboard. How fucked up is that? Ooh, baby, look at that horn blow. Then the first mate gets killed through the rainy window in a way that can't be described accurately. But he is dead nonetheless. The captain himself gets it with a simple throat slit. but get some gratuitous slow motion to capture his reaction. That is some top-shelf acting right there. That dude must have been hard up for the money. Who wants to play an adult in one of these movies? There are a lot of off-screen deaths in this movie because this ship is filled with the graduating class from some fictional high school. But only like a half dozen make it into the lifeboat when Jason intentionally sinks the ship later on. So hundreds sank with it. It's hard to say how many, but it's gotta be in the hundreds. Not to mention the crew of the ship itself, but who knows? It's not like we're counting them like those hacks over on the Dead Meat channel. I used to be a fan of theirs, but they are kind of annoying. I don't want to throw shade, but it took them years to give the 1986 masterpiece Maximum Overdrive a proper kill count, even after I bitched and moaned and complained in his comments section. Hey, he said he was gonna do it. I was just holding him to it. So if you're watching this movie in real time, at this point it's more than halfway over and we're still on this fucking ship. Only like the last 20 minutes is in New York. And it's not even New York, it's Vancouver. Only the Times Square scene is New York proper. I don't know how that dude got stabbed with a syringe that went all the way through his body, but whatever. These movies were never about logic. I always thought that this scene would have made a good anti-drug PSA. Jason says, just say no, kids. And then this dude gets his head punched off his shoulders, and it rolls down the building and into a dumpster. In the original script, their fight was supposed to take place in Madison Square Garden, the house that Bob Backlund built. What a rip-off. There was also supposed to be a sequence where Jason was hanging off of the side of the Statue of Liberty, but the producers were like, no. You can't film at the garden, you can't film at the Statue of Liberty, but you can film for one day at Times Square. If they had filmed the movie true to the original script, this movie would have been absolutely fucking epic. A lot of people don't realize that Jason is originally from New Jersey, according to his backstory. So it's not like he had to go far to get into New York. That old codger was an even bigger cocksmith than the blonde that pushed the girl overboard. So him getting drowned upside down in a chemical drum full of waste is probably too good for him. He tried to drown the girl who got pushed overboard as a kid. He was like her uncle or some shit, I don't remember. But he was trying to teach her how to swim by throwing her out of the boat and forcing her to swim. My stepdad tried the same thing with me, and all it produced was me staying the fuck out of the pool. Look at the shitty makeup Jason has when his mask is removed. Who did that? Fucking Jim Henson or some shit. He looks absolutely foolish. Jason is killed by toxic waste that floods the sewers every night at midnight, and he's stripped down to a normal kid again. But Jason isn't bald like he was in the original, but who cares at this point? So there you have it, you thumb suckers. 8 films in a half hour. If there was anyone who could do it, it was me. I feel like I'd do better when the videos I make have a theme. And the theme for this one is don't shortchange the audience, and I need to start work on the next video as soon as possible. When it gets down to the last minute, you get shit videos like the one we did last week. I'll try to not let that happen ever again. Oh what? You thought we were done? Oh no way, we are just getting started. This is the second act, as they say. You got a 30-minute episode for this week with all the kills. So now let's get you guys back the 15 minutes you were owed from last week. I can't promise that we can make it to 45 minutes, but we are going to try. I'm not sure how long YouTube will let me roll. I know back in the day I used to live stream Grand Theft Auto for multiple hours, but I don't know about straight-up uploads. Or loaded loads for that matter. Speaking of loaded loads, this is me working with a gnarly hangover. As you can see, I am still holding it down, so don't try to give me a bunch of shit. You don't know what it's like. And I'm still hiding from Ho Chi, who probably has a truckload of questions. I hope my employers find these videos when I'm out on the road driving a truck, and they'll slowly realize that they allowed a total piece of shit to work for them. I'll reveal everything at some point. So for the background, we just have the Brady Bunch along with some random fails. I'm a man of low tastes, so if you are watching still, that probably means you are too. But hey, that's nothing to be ashamed of. Embrace your inner scumbag. I know I did. Whoa, that tire looked like it was going to explode right through the screen and pop us right in the fucking grill. And this piano, you know, when it landed, it made the PS2 startup sound. It always sounded like a cat walking on piano keys to me. How about you? Feel free to share your experiences with the PS2 startup sound in the comments. That is what it is there for. You know, this is the first time we've ever gone beyond 30 minutes before. It makes me feel like we are boldly going where no one has gone before. In a certain light, Star Trek was a gay comedy. There is no dispute about that. All of that is confirmed. We confirmed it using scientific methods, so don't come at me all fucked up. You know what? I was thinking that it would be criminal to not add Freddy vs. Jason in this video, so let's go ahead and do that. I actually saw this in the theater, and then a couple of months later saw the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, both under the influence of LSD. That was a big thing for me back then, going to the movies while tripping on acid. I remember this movie distinctly because it was something that I had wanted to see my whole life. And when Paramount sold the right to New Line Cinema, that was a possibility. I want to make it perfectly clear that Jason was always my guy. Freddy was a goddamned child molester and child killer, whereas Jason was always just a boy who loved his mother perhaps a bit too much. It doesn't matter. He was a victim of a world that didn't love him enough. Don't get me wrong, Freddy Krueger is a cultural and horror icon in his own right. But his movies got really fucking confusing after Part 3, The Dream Warriors. Remember that? Fucking Patricia Arquette was in that. You can't hate on that, can you? If you want some real talk, the series went down fucking hill when Wes Craven stopped being involved. It doesn't matter. Look at this video here. It's all Jason killing people. Freddy is taking his rightful place behind the man himself. Jason is the best there is, was, and ever will be. I knew walking into the theater that there was no fucking way that Freddy could beat Jason, unless it was a competition between who could tell the most one-liners before killing someone. Freddy is a goddamn comedian before anything else. I don't want to get my fanboy on, but this is one of those things that I can't just stand by while people are like, oh my god, Freddy is so cool, oh my god, he's so awesome. He sucks, dude. And he sucks because New Line was using some talentless writers. Are you scared? Calm down, guy. It's nothing to be afraid of, man. But it is my duty to let you know that you just made the list. Great. Now I have to take my pants off because I spilled ketchup on them. Are you happy now? Ooh yeah, he spilled ketchup on his pants. Well, I will have you know that I will not stand for any bullshit up in here. Not up in here. If Wes Craven is so cool, then why is it that Sean Cunningham is reaping all the benefits? Because New Line Cinema sucks ass. I'm kind of ashamed that they even did business with them. But Kevin Smith, who directed Clerks and Mallrats, should have sued the shit out of these people for using a blatant ripoff of his Jay character. But I don't know. He was fat and out of shape when this movie came out, and I'm sure he had better things to do. I'm sorry if I'm kind of going off the rails here, But I didn't learn my lesson and picked up a sixer of Colt 45 on my way home and started slamming them. But I'm a drunk and everybody knows it. And a leopard never changes his stripes. Them's the breaks. That was Kelly Rowland from Destiny's Child getting wrecked right there. She was probably the biggest star in this movie, aside from the douche canoe that plays Freddy. I don't know if we are going to make it to 45 minutes. I'm gonna end it after this segment. Well, this is the end right here. Good, because I need to go take a piss and possibly throw up and go to bed. But this is still the longest video we've done so far. We will see you all next week. And until then, don't you go changing. Don't you do that shit. Look at this fucking tool.